Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. So let's go ahead and break into our art analysis for tonight. Tonight I am going to, so what I've been doing is, I like visual thinking, and that's what I've been doing with the film analysis as well. And I like visual thinking of static art. But yeah, so I've been picking my favorite artists. We started out with Darwin Cook and we looked at Mauricio Abril. Last week we did Alex Ross. This week, I want to do somebody who's a little bit more closer to us as YouTubers, and Ethan Van Sciver. I'm a huge fan of Ethan Van Sciver's work, had been long before he hit YouTube and long before he did the Cyberfrog stuff. So I've been kind of centering the art that we look at mostly around my favorite characters, which are the DC Trinity, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. And that's what I want to look at, three classic pieces. Well, technically four, but we'll look at those from him back in the day. One important point, too, though, is it's entirely possible that, once I cut this out and make it its own video, that Ethan might come in and check this out. I mean, he's a busy guy, but he does know of me and my channel. I've been on his channel once or twice, very briefly, but it's entirely possible that he could see this, and it's entirely possible that he might say that's not actually what I intended necessarily about just any part of my analysis, and that's okay. There is a space to operate in between creator's intent, and I say creator's intent because it means writers or authors or artists or anything like that. Artist's intent and the public's reception of it, or even one's interpretation of it. Now, I say there's room to play in because you can't. Some people side solidly on either side of that, and that's just wrong. You can't just go by absolutely whatever the artist or author says, no matter what, because once they've created the work, it's out there and it's no longer theirs. I mean, it's theirs, copyright and all that kind of stuff, but it's no longer theirs to control how it's perceived. This is where you got writers, for example, try to do this, like J.K. Rowling trying to come out and say, well, this is exactly what that character was, and this is really what that character was, and trying to read all that interpretation in, and that just doesn't work. You can't do that. It's no longer yours to control now. It's in our interpretation. So but you can also go opposite and just say, well, it's any interpretation I have of it is valid. That's not true. Flannery O'Connor, great writer, love Flannery O'Connor, wonderful short story writer, came out after the fact and was saying things about her stories about, and she was a Catholic woman, and she was trying to give really heavy-handed, sometimes I thought heavy-handed Catholic interpretations of her stories. I mean, they certainly weren't anti-Catholic. As an interpreter, you can't say, well, this story is certainly about Satanism or something. No, that's ridiculous. It's not just whatever your interpretation is. But there's room. There has to be a balance. There's somewhere in between the middle there. So it's entirely probable that, if Ethan Van Sciver saw this, or any artist, I'm a friend of Mauricio Abril's too, if he happened to see the one I made a couple weeks ago, it's entirely possible that they could say, oh, I didn't really intend that, but that's cool that you saw that, and that's still fine. That's still a valid analysis as long as you're not crazy off the wall. But I try to really hang my analyses on specifics that are in the piece. So I've never really had that experience. I'm just, hanging a lantern on it, as it were, in case it ever should arise. All right, let's move into some art analysis. And first, I'm going to start out something I rarely ever do, and that's to show you an image that's technically from the New 52. I'm firmly against the New 52 and everything it stood for. I think it was awful. It was a big mark of the downfall of comics and so forth, as I've said many times. That doesn't mean that now, after the fact, now after we don't have New 52 anymore, that you can't go back and look at certain this or that creator who actually did a good story here or whatever. You can't pull out some nuggets of gold from it. And I was looking for the graphic novel. That's why I was a minute or two late. I've got the graphic novel, the Mad Hatter one, that Ethan Van Sciver worked on with I forget the writer that he worked on with it. I've actually done a review of it on my channel before, but it was a good solid story, good handling of the Mad Hatter. He's one of my favorite Batman villains and whatnot. And this is a piece that he did from that arc. I think it was I can't remember if this was a splash page or an actual cover or something like that, but this was, even though it was New 52 Batman, he still had the proper long ears as he does. So you don't have the trunks, which is stupid, but otherwise, whatever. But I love this piece. I love this, the composition of it, because as we've, I talk about, just from the basics, you look for a compositional triangle. And if you look at the lightning strike coming in from the top right hand of the image there, that forms your triangle for you. You've got your triangle split off from that corner coming down, and then it divides your main triangle of content, and then it has the little bit of the two side triangles there as well. So that's great composition there. Really wonderful sense of motion and movement, because we've got Batman running and just really leaning into that run, and the way his cape is flowing with the run, it's perfect. You can see the motion of the way he's just gripped his hand that way, and gripping the cape. The cape is responding to his movement. So it's a dynamic piece. It really is. And you've got the rain pouring in from that top right hand corner, which also adds to the motion. So you see him running into the wind. That's key. We'll get to that in a second, but I'm just looking at the technical aspects of it first, so really conveys that motion, because slanted lines like that, which is what the rain ends up being there, conveys motion of moving forward that way as well. So love that. Love the piece. Love the dynamics of it. Now, you look at what it says about the character, and that's kind of another level. And I really love that. I like the fact that he's got Jim Gordon in the back, the bat signal and everything back there. You can imagine got a couple police officers, I think it is, back there. He's running into the wind. This again is Batman operating in Gotham City, which it's not Metropolis, right? There's a lot of corruption in the city. Even though you've got Gordon as commissioner at this point, Batman still, as he battles supervillains, is battling a corrupt system as well. So you've got that bat running into the wind, pushing uphill and what he does. And I like that little bit of conveyance there. But what I really love about the scene is the way, and Ethan Van Sciver's done this a number of times in a number of Batman compositions I've seen. If you remember when we looked at the Steve Rude piece of Superman and Batman standing there together, and we were talking about how they were linked together in light. And on Superman's side of the image, the sun was from behind him and everything, and there were doves flying out. And on Batman's side of the image, standing right next to him, it was darkness, and there was the bat signal, and bats were flying around. And we talked about how two of them were linked in light, so they were the same. Superman fights in sunny Metropolis, and he's there to shed the light and to show to show the way and to fight within that context. Batman's there to shed the light as well, but he does it at night, and he does it in Gotham. So he has to take on the face of darkness to fight in context, but he's still showing the light. He's shedding the light. It's just that his light happens to be the bat signal, not the sun. It's a different context of a character. So you had bats rather than doves and so forth. They were linked. What I like about this image, and another one I'll show you in a second that Ethan Van Sciver's done, is that he's linked Batman with the lightning. Batman is this force of nature. He can run into the wind because he's running against the rain there. It's the lightning, if you'll see the lines on his cape with the little bat wing portions of the cape and everything. Just like the lightning bolt breaks off in these little lines, so his cape breaks off in those little lines. There's a juxtaposition, or what's the word I'm looking for? A relation between the movement of his cape and the patterns and the movement that the lightning bolt makes. I love that. Batman's this force of light, again, because we have lightning. In a storm of Gotham, in the dark storm of Gotham, Batman's that flash of light, coming to the ground and lighting up things. And but he's dangerous too, right? He is dangerous. He's not there to pat the villains on the head. He's going to give them a beating, not kill them, Snyder. but really, so I love that. I just love the way he conveys Batman. This was that image. Now here's another one from pre-New 52. Nope, that's not it. There it is. Okay, this is from pre-New 52. So you see Batman still with the trunks there, as he should be. But I like the way that Van Sciver often, when he draws the Batcape, it's often in flowing in the wind, but it often resembles two wings. Even though it's one single cape, it often resembles two wings behind him. I like that aspect because it's very much he likes to make Batman the gargoyle. He always gives Batman the proper long ears. I love that. I love the dynamic bat on his chest, which is over his pectorals. It kind of ripples out like the cape. I love the way he draws Batman. And here we've got the lightning behind him again still. And he's the source of the lightning pretty much. I mean, the lightning's behind him in the sky, but because of the composition, he's right there at the summit of it. And I love that he's fighting, or he's there challenging Scarecrow. Scarecrow's a unique Batman villain, of course, as you know, because Scarecrow attempts to use fear. But Batman uses fear for good, whereas Scarecrow uses fear to, for evil and tries to create panic in people and whatnot. Batman's there to create fear in the villains to scare them straight and whatnot. So the idea there, and you can see the subtle difference. They're both elements. You got a bat and a Scarecrow. They're both these Halloween-like, icons, these icons of fear. And yet, look at Scarecrow, this very spindly with his hands, in this kind of crooked claw-like frame. But you've got Batman with the fists drawn, the solidity of Batman in this character, in this pose, whereas you've got the spindly, limp-wristed, claw-like hand of Scarecrow. I like that juxtaposition there. So I just wanted to show this as something from non-New 52 as well that does this this trope that he likes to do, or this some of these themes that he likes to do with Batman as well. But we'll move on after this. Yeah, Cape's got a mind of its own, Owen Lister says, definitely. The Bat Gargoyle, exactly. Yeah, this is really great. So the next image, you saw it there for a second, is this is another Ethan Van Sciver one, and I love this story. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with having to talk about this story because it's so good. The art is amazing, and the story really is so amazing. I actually use it in my class, my Constructing American Heroes course, when we get to the heroine archetype, because it's a solid, amazing story, but it's written by Gail Simone. And Gail Simone is one of those abominably behaving comic professionals on the internet and whatnot. And she really falls in line with that crowd like Mark Waid, Christopher Priest, and others who just, they created such amazing things back in their day, but now they just can't anymore. It's just so agenda driven. I don't like that. But Gail Simone, of course, she's known for writing Wonder Woman for a time, and she did good things on the run, but I don't praise her Wonder Woman run like everybody else kind of does across the board. I think she has some pretty gaping holes in her understanding of Wonder Woman that show through in a lot of her stories sometimes, but not this one. This is a short story. It's called Gothamazon. So it's the Amazon word mixed with Gotham, Gothamazon. And this was the first story to come out in the Sensational Comics featuring Wonder Woman, which was a digital first run that hit when New 52 was still going on. So there was no real Wonder Woman to be had because New 52 Wonder Woman was just a hack and slash warrior. She was awful. Wasn't even remotely the character herself. So where did you go if you wanted, you just had to go to the old stories? Well, they finally did something close to the end of the New 52. They released this Sensational Comics featuring Wonder Woman line that was digital first, and then it was then it went to hard copy, and I've got the hard copies as well. But it was you could tell stories from any era. So Gail Simone did a non-New 52 story, and Ethan Van Sciver's work is amazing throughout the story. And the premise of it is that all of the villains in Gotham City work together in this moment, and they're able to take Batman, Robin, and Nightwing out of commission for a time. There's this explosion. They don't kill them, but for some, you don't really go into the details, but they're taken out of commission for a short time. So Oracle has to call in, Oracle's in charge then of Gotham at that point, and she has to call in help. So she decides, who am I going to call in from the Justice League? And she talks about what hero would work best in Gotham. I think she said Barry, he's too noble. Hal is too, I forget, I don't have the comic in front of me, but she settles on Wonder Woman, and it's an amazing story. It's an amazing story of Wonder Woman bringing her own sense of justice and truth. And in the end, she forces the villains to confront the truth of themselves. Glorious scene with her lasso of truth. I love it so much. But this image, this is from the cover of that story. And it's showing up a little small there. So that doesn't help a lot. But hopefully you can see it. You can make your own YouTube image there bigger on the screen, and you should be able to see it pretty well. What I love about this scene is you've got the triangle. You've got competing triangles, really, because you've got the triangle of the building's pediment there behind her coming down. But then you've also got the searchlight coming down in that. And what it is she's written the WW in the back with her lasso. As she's roped up the villains, you see WW. But I like the fact that there's a bit of a W element in the composition as well, with those two competing diagonal lines coming in. And I'd really say that the even though you've got the pediment behind her, the dark Gotham, she's standing in the spotlight. She's standing in that light of the light of truth, the light of justice coming into Gotham. Not that Batman doesn't bring that in his own way, but just for the story's sake. I love that. I like that she's perched on the gargoyle, much as Batman's usually perched on a gargoyle, but she's not glowering at the city. She's not trying to seem like a gargoyle. No, she's the eagle, right? I mean, that's what Wonder Woman's associated with, the eagle on her breastplate there and everything. And I like the fact that gargoyle she's standing on is even very eagle-like. It doesn't look like a typical gargoyle. So I like that bringing her force, that her heroine force into Gotham. I love that the image really shows that. And it shows this lasso of truth. She's lassoing us, the viewer, as well. It's like we're one of the villains that she's lassoing up there. And the idea that the villains back there are balanced, hanging on the lasso. I mean, there's the sense of justice, the scales of justice, evoking these different kinds of thoughts or imagery with it all. I just love the light, how the light really seems to emanate from her. The searchlight coming down, it seems the light almost seems to emanate from her. And in the story proper, her breastplate, belt, and tiara are gold, as they should be. I don't like when they just go silver sometimes. I like them as gold. But here I think they're supposed to be gold. I think it's just the flash of the light is supposed to kind of be diffusing it a little bit. But love this image. Love that. And again, it's how Ethan Van Sciver uses light in paintings. I mean, granted, he's got colorists and stuff like that can come in, but he's still laying the groundwork for it. He's still playing the directions for it, laying the foundations for how the light should be used and whatnot. I'm not sure who the colorist was here. I didn't know if that was what's his name, his old colorist Moose, or if that was Kyle at this point. I'm not sure. I think Kyle was just started working with him on Cyberfrog, but if I'm correct. But great piece. I moved on. So let's go to our last image here. Of the Ethan Van Sciver's DC work. Really love this. This was for a cover too. And this features our Superman, my favorite character. But with Batman and Plastic Man here in this case. And what I love so much, there's just so much to love about this. So you see the compositional triangle right from the top, and you got the sun bright and center at the top center, and the rays are showing you that triangle coming out into Superman's fist. Glorious, wonderful. In that respect, Superman is the guiding light. That's what he's set up as in this picture. And it makes sense. Superman, he should be associated with the sun. He gains his powers from Earth's yellow sun and whatnot. But he's the, he's the leader of this crew just in terms of this image's composition and what it's conveying to us. Batman is that source of, or the closest to that light anyway. He's the inspiration, right? He's the one that inspires others to be heroes. Batman can inspire people, sure, but he's not the iconic image of the world, like Superman is in the DC universe, So I like that. I like the fact that their capes and then Plastic Man's body are so intertwined if you see behind them. In fact, for a while, it's kind of hard to see what's going on with Plastic Man's body, right? Because what's this little square over here where Ethan Van Sciver has his signature? His hands are clearly over there, next to Batman. So what is that? Well, that's actually this body. That's the body that Plastic Man's emanating from. It goes from that square off to the left of the image, up around in a circle before he comes back down to show his the way he's stretching forward like that. And then his hands are out to that side. But I like the fact that they're all kind of spread out to the where they're entangled. And entangled as it looks because they're in different depths of field, but just for us as a viewer here, it looks like they're almost tangled up or something. And that's the idea that they're one, they're a unit, they're a team. The Justice League, this is the they're fighting as one, as a team, as they should be, not just a bunch of separate people arguing with each other or having to overcome their differences. That's the Avengers stuff. Justice League should be together. They're a DC thing. It's absolutely different. I like the fact that you've got Superman's cape showing up the left side of the screen, and then Batman's is mirrored to the right. So Batman's cape, again, forming those two wings that Ethan Van Sciver likes to have them in. I love that. But I like the fact that you've got that image of Superman and Batman. You've got the two sides of the same coin. I love that. But you've just got the cape, bright red, and then black a little bit behind the light, sort of, shadowed. I love that. That's perfect. That's a good image, too. Just look at those two capes. That's a good picture of the two characters and how they should be very much the same, but also two different sides of the same coin. Love that. And Plastic Man's an interesting addition. I don't remember the issue or know exactly what this is a cover for. Maybe it's a Batman Superman World's Finest and that Plastic Man guest stars in or something. I forgot exactly. I'd have to go back and do some research on that. But I like I like in this image anyway, just speaking from this image, the inclusion of Plastic Man. because he's a character who started out as a villain or a crook anyway. He was a crook before I think Batman found him and converted him into hero work. And he's really trying to redeem himself. He's a great character, Plastic Man, and very much a trickster, quite funny when he's written well. And so I love his character, but I love him included with the great bastion of justice and truth in the American way, Superman there, as well as Batman, the one who's the searchlight in the night, the justice and vengeance of the night. I love that idea. So I like the inclusion there, and I like that they all kind of emanate down from the sun, Superman being the closest, and moving on down as we go. So great piece. I would love to get a print of this and hang it on my wall. Really, truly love it. Ethan Van Sciver's work was just always great. I loved his stuff. Even when he's drawing New 52 costumes that I think are atrocious, which he's had to do because that was New 52 continuity, he still brings such a touch to him, such a dynamic nature to the art, and of course he's continuing that now with his Cyberfrog stuff and the other stuff he's doing now. But I do think it's a shame. I mean, he's making wonderful progress and wonderful living for himself what he's doing. So I wouldn't wish him back at DC anyway. DC's dead, but it is a shame that we won't see a lot more of his great work with these DC characters because it's pretty awesome.